You begin in stillness. Not the kind of stillness that is empty, but the kind that hums quietly beneath everything, like the pause between two heartbeats or the breath before dawn. Above you, the sky stretches wider than thought. You look up, and what you see is not truly there. Each star, each galaxy, is an echo, a memory of light that has been traveling for millions or even billions of years just to reach you now. You breathe in, and the air feels like time itself, folded into every atom. You breathe out, and space seems to expand with you. Somewhere between those breaths, something vast and invisible moves. It is not wind, not gravity, not even light. It is the universe itself, growing, stretching, unfolding. This expansion is everywhere, but it has no edges. If you were to drift toward the farthest galaxy, you would find it still moving away. Every direction leads outward, yet there is no center. The cosmos grows not into something, but of itself. Space creating more space, like an ocean rising from its own surface. Scientists call this mysterious force dark energy, but the name does not do it justice. It is not dark in color or sinister in nature. It is dark only because it cannot be seen. It does not shine, it does not pull, it does not scatter light, yet it fills the universe, quietly, evenly, everywhere. Imagine holding a balloon and blowing air into it. The rubber stretches, not because there is something pushing from outside, but because the air inside increases, spreading evenly. Now imagine that instead of a balloon, it is reality itself expanding. Every galaxy is like a small mark on that surface, moving apart not because they're flying through space, but because the space between them is swelling. You can't see this expansion by looking around you. The chair you sit on, the air in the room, even the distance between atoms, all of it stays still, bound by forces stronger than expansion. Yet beyond galaxies, in the deep, empty reaches between clusters of stars, the stretching never stops. There, space itself grows like the slow exhale of an endless breath. If you could speed up time thousands, millions, billions of years, you would see the galaxies drift apart, their light dimming as they move away from one another. The universe would appear to bloom like a flower made of galaxies. But you, here and now, cannot feel it. It is too vast, too slow, too gentle, like your own heartbeat. You notice it only when you pause long enough to listen. Long ago, astronomers believed the universe was static, that gravity would hold everything still. Even Einstein once adjusted his own equations to make it so, adding a cosmological constant to prevent expansion. Later, he called that adjustment his greatest mistake, because the universe was not still. It was growing, quietly, constantly, and it has been ever since. It took centuries of watching light to uncover this truth. In the early 20th century, Edwin Hubble looked at distant galaxies and noticed something remarkable. Their light was stretched, reddened, as if fleeing from us. This redshift meant motion, not through space, but with space. Every galaxy was receding, the universe expanding like an unfolding dream. You imagine Hubble standing under the same night sky, not with wonder alone, but with us sharpened by realization, to see the stars and understand they are not fixed but flowing, that the entire universe is a current of creation, is to feel both small and infinite at once. But what makes this expansion accelerate? Gravity should slow it down, pulling matter together. Instead, galaxies are racing apart faster with time, as if the universe itself is learning to let go. Something unseen is doing the pushing. A soft pressure, a force woven into the very fabric of existence. Dark energy, scientists say, might be the property of space itself, a built-in energy that does not thin out as space expands. The more space there is, the more dark energy exists to push outward, in an elegant loop that ensures the cosmos keeps breathing. Like the rise and fall of your chest, it never truly stops. You begin to wonder if this expansion has a sound, not one the ear could catch, but a hum that might live beneath all frequencies, the gentle murmur of creation itself, the background radiation of the universe. The faint afterglow of the Big Bang is a kind of whisper, a reminder that everything began hot and close, and has since cooled and stretched into the vastness we see today. Look at the night sky again. Every point of light is part of that ancient expansion. The farther you look, the further back in time you see. You are not separate from it. Your body, your atoms, your breath are made from the same energy that moves galaxies. Hydrogen in your blood once floated free in the young cosmos, carried by that same invisible expansion. You are not outside the universe watching it grow. You are within it, expanding with it, part of its rhythm. There is a peace in knowing that something so immense and unseen could exist not as chaos, but as balance. For even as dark energy pushes outward, gravity pulls inward, sculpting galaxies, stars, and worlds. Without one, the other could not create beauty. The universe, it seems, requires both the expansion and the embrace, the outward sigh and the inward pull, to exist at all. You close your eyes, and the idea settles in that the cosmos itself is breathing, and you are breathing with it. Every inhale is gravity, draw you toward the center of being. Every exhale is dark energy, letting you drift into infinite space. The balance between those breaths is where life happens, between collapse and expansion, between silence and sound. You are the pause between the stars, the quiet that holds everything together. As you drift deeper into this thought, the edges of time soften. You no longer feel separate from the galaxies or their distances. The universe becomes a single, seamless motion, expanding, evolving, alive. And somewhere beyond your sight, where galaxies are faint and the dark grows deep, the web begins to form, thin, luminous threads connecting all things. An invisible skeleton taking shape beneath the cosmic skin. You feel before you see it, the gentle tension of connection, the sense that everything, though drifting apart, remains tied together in ways unseen. That is where your next journey begins. In the quiet, where the universe builds its unseen web. You begin in stillness, not the kind that feels empty, but the kind that vibrates softly underneath everything. A pause, a hush, a breath the universe has been holding for billions of years. The night stretches around you, infinite and silent, and in that silence, the cosmos seems to whisper its oldest secret. Nothing truly stands still. You lift your eyes toward the dark, and the darkness is not what it seems. Scattered across it, like drops of molten gold, are galaxies, countless, ancient, alive. Yet what lies between them is far more mysterious than the light they give off. Between those islands of stars is something unseen, something that pulls no light, reflects no color, and yet moves everything apart. You breathe in slowly. The air touches your lungs the way starlight touches the edge of a galaxy. Softly, invisibly, you breathe out, and space itself seems to stretch with you. In that rhythm, you begin to feel it, the expansion, the quiet growing of the universe, an endless exhale that began long before your first breath and will continue long after your last. Scientists call this phenomenon dark energy, but that phrase is only a shadow, a name for what can't yet be seen. It is not dark as in evil, nor energy as in flame. It is something more subtle, a property of existence itself, an invisible pressure that pushes galaxies apart. The more space there is, the more dark energy exists within it, expanding the universe like an endless unfolding fabric. Imagine the cosmos as a great ocean, calm and wide. On its surface, tiny ships, the galaxies, drift apart as the water beneath them stretches. The ships are not moving through the sea. The sea itself is growing, carrying them farther apart. That is how space behaves. Galaxies are not racing through it. They are being carried by its expansion. This movement is too gentle for human senses to feel. Your body, the ground beneath you, the air that wraps around Earth, they remain still. Gravity, atoms, and electromagnetic bonds that hold matter together resist this expansion. Only the vast distances between galaxies are free enough to stretch. Out there, in the deep cosmic dark, the universe breathes. If you could watch the heavens unfold across billions of years, you would see the galaxies drift, the spaces between them widening. They would fade into distance, like lanterns carried away by a tide. But from your small moment in time, the sky seems still. It takes patience and light to see movement that's slow. A century ago, astronomers believed the universe might be fixed, eternal, unchanging. Even Einstein, whose equations hinted at expansion, resisted the idea. He introduced something he called the cosmological constant to keep his universe still, a mathematical hand pressing against motion. Later, he would call it his greatest mistake. Because the universe was not standing still. It was moving, growing, alive with expansion. In the 1920s, Edwin Hubble gazed through his telescope and discovered galaxies beyond our own Milky Way. But more astonishingly, he found that their light was stretched, shifted toward the red. The farther a galaxy was, the redder its light appeared. This was no accident. It was a mark of motion, the signature of space expanding. The cosmos was breathing out. To understand redshift, you picture sound. When a siren passes, its tone drops as it moves away. The waves stretch. Light does the same. As galaxies recede, their light waves lengthen, sliding toward the red end of the spectrum. That faint red glow tells a story billions of years old. The story of the universe expanding in every direction. You think of that, and suddenly, the stars around you seem to drift ever so slightly apart. The night feels wider. You realize that every moment you live, every breath you take, happens inside this great unfolding. You are not separate from the expansion. You are part of it. The atoms that make your body once rode that same cosmic tide, flung outward from the birth of everything. Dark energy does not roar. It does not spark or explode. It works in silence, evenly distributed across all of space. Its nature is elusive, perhaps woven into the fabric of space-time itself, perhaps a whisper from an unknown field. Yet its effect is undeniable. Gravity tries to gather, but dark energy persuades the universe to let go. The cosmos is a balance between these two ancient voices, one that binds, one that releases. And in that balance lies beauty. Without gravity, there will be no stars, no planets, no warmth. Without dark energy, the universe might have collapsed long ago. Together they choreograph existence, one shaping, the other expanding, in a harmony older than time. You imagine yourself floating beyond the Milky Way, looking down upon the galactic spirals spinning in the dark. Between those islands of light, the void glows faintly with the aftertaste of creation. The cosmic microwave background, radiation left over from a universe's fiery beginning. In that glow lies evidence of expansion, an echo of a moment when everything, all matter, all energy, all space, began to stretch outward from a single, impossibly dense point. It is strange to think that something so immense began so small, that every galaxy, every atom, every thought could have once been condensed into a single flash of light. The Big Bang was not an explosion in space, but an expansion of space itself, the first great breath. And here you are, billions of years later, still breathing with it. Every exhale a mirror of that ancient event. Every inhale a reminder that you are part of its rhythm. The stars above you are not fixed. They are moving with the flow of space-time. They drift apart so slowly that you would never notice. But across eons, the pattern changes. The constellations that once guided travelers will one day fade, their familiar shapes dissolving into new forms. Even the galaxies we now see will, in the far future, disappear beyond visibility, carried too far for their light to reach us. Yet the universe will not be lonely. It will still hum with the invisible presence of dark energy, still stretching, still expanding, still breathing. Its silence will be full, not empty, vast, not void. You feel comfort in that thought. That expansion itself is a kind of continuity, that even as things drift apart, they remain connected by the same invisible cause. It is not destruction, but evolution, not loss, but transformation. The more you understand, the quieter you become. The more you gaze into the cosmos, the more it begins to resemble something intimate, like your own heartbeat magnified into eternity. You realize that dark energy is not only out there, it is within everything. The same balance that keeps galaxies apart also allows atoms to exist, allows consciousness to emerge, allows you to wonder at all. The universe does not expand away from you, it expands through you. And as your thoughts settle into that understanding, you begin to sense the next mystery, a question that hums beneath your calm like a pulse beneath still water. If the universe keeps growing, what invisible framework holds it together? What unseen pattern threads galaxies to the dark, giving structure to the vastness? You drift farther now, away from the bright spiral arms of your own galaxy, into the quiet gulf between worlds. The stars grow sparse, The dark deepens, and the silence becomes almost touchable. Yet it is not empty. It never was. Something shimmers beneath perception. Not light, not sound, but a sense of structure, like an unseen scaffolding holding up the sky. You let yourself float, slow and weightless, and for a moment, the emptiness folds open. You glimpse it, faint, delicate filaments, like strands of silk suspended through eternity. They stretch for billions of light years, connecting galaxies like dewdrops along an invisible web. This is a cosmic web, the true shape of the universe. It is not random, not scattered chaos. It is a pattern, a living geometry woven from matter and time. Galaxies do not drift alone. They are strung together in great cosmic threads, each thread filled with clusters and voids, like beads on a string spun by creation itself. You imagine touching one of those threads. It hums beneath your fingertips, faintly alive. Inside it, billions of galaxies flow together through the quiet current of gravity. Between those threads lie vast cosmic deserts, voids so empty that even light seems to hesitate before crossing them. The web defines everything, where matter gathers, where space stays barren, how the universe breathes. And yet, no one can see it directly. Its existence is revealed only through motion, through how galaxies cluster and how their light bends on its long journey to Earth. Scientists map it not with sight, but with inference, tracing invisible lines by observing how gravity shapes what can be seen. The cosmic web began long ago, when the universe was still hot and young. After the Big Bang, matter was almost evenly spread like mist after storm. But tiny fluctuations, minuscule ripples in density, gave the cosmos texture. These ripples, born from quantum whispers in the first instant of creation, grew over billions of years into great rivers of matter. Gravity gathered the denser regions, while dark energy expanded the empty ones. Over time, those two forces, the pull and the push, sculpted a grand architecture. What you see now is their balance, a map written in invisible ink, the result of patience measured not in years, but in eons. You close your eyes and imagine the process. You see matter flowing like liquid light, drawn toward denser knots by gravity's quiet persuasion. You see dark energy stretching the spaces between, ensuring the web does not collapse into itself. Every filament is a compromise between holding and releasing, a cosmic tension that mirrors every balance in nature, even within your own body. Your veins, after all, also form networks. So do the roots beneath forests, the filaments of fungi, the branching of lightning in a storm. Even the neurons in your brain resemble the same pattern. Everywhere life organizes itself, it seems to echo the geometry of the cosmos. You are made from the same tendency toward connection. If you could step back far enough, far beyond your galaxy, beyond the known horizon, and look at the universe as a whole, it would appear like a vast neural network, glowing nodes of galaxies linked by shining filaments of matter. The universe thinks in structure, breathes in pattern, dreams in repetition. Scientists have simulated this architecture using supercomputers, billions of particles interacting through time. The results are hauntingly beautiful. Even when stripped of color and rendered in numbers, the pattern feels alive. It resembles something both alien and intimate, as though the universe were mapping its own mind. And within these threads, galaxies form, spinning, colliding, evolving. Clusters gather at the intersections, where multiple filaments cross. These crossings are the cosmic cities, rich with stars and dust, home to planetary systems, and perhaps, somewhere, consciousness looking back at the same sky. You float through one such intersection. It feels like standing in the center of a great web, each strand humming with energy. The vibrations are ancient, some billions of years old, still rippling from the universe's first movements. Time feels fluid here, stretched in between gravity and expansion. You sense the forces at play, the inward pull of matter and the outward whisper of dark energy. Dark matter forms the skeleton of these threads. Though invisible, it outweighs ordinary matter by far. It does not shine, but its gravity shapes everything, drawing gas and dust into filaments, allowing stars to ignite within them. Without dark matter, galaxies would not hold together. The cosmic web would unravel into formless mist. Scientists have glimpsed this hidden scaffolding through a technique called gravitational lensing. When light from a distant galaxy passes near a massive cluster, gravity bends its path, distorting its image like a reflection through curved glass. By studying these distortions, astronomers can trace the invisible matter creating them. Piece by piece, they reveal the structure of the web, a map drawn not in light, but in the bending of light. It's humbling to think that everything visible, all the stars, all the galaxies, makes up less than 5% of the cosmos. The rest belongs to the unseen, dark matter and dark energy. You drift in that realization, surrounded by what cannot be seen yet clearly exists. The universe hides its most important parts beneath silence. Perhaps that is true of all things. The visible is only the surface, a reflection of deeper frameworks. The patterns of life, the structure of thought, the feeling of connection, all are threads of unseen origin. The universe teaches you this quietly, through its design. You wonder if the cosmic web ever truly ends. Does it stretch infinitely or loop upon itself? Some scientists think it may fold back in ways we cannot yet comprehend, that space might be curved enough to connect distant points, creating a universe without edges. The thought is dizzying, yet soothing, boundless, but self-contained. You travel along one filament now, guided by faint streams of galaxies glowing like embers. As you drift, you feel the push of expansion tugging at everything, a reminder of dark energy's quiet influence. Even the web itself feels it, stretched thinner as the universe grows. In distant ages, the threads may drift apart, their galaxies fading from one another's view. Yet the memory of their connection will remain, written into the shape of what once was. The pattern persists, even in absence. That, too, is part of the cosmic rhythm. Creation does not cling, it flows. What holds the universe together is not permanence, but relation, gravity linking what dark energy separates, a perpetual conversation between two invisible forces. You breathe in that balance, sensing how it echoes within you, the tug of attachment, the release of expansion, both necessary, both beautiful. In the cosmic web and in your own life, everything depends on this gentle tension. And as the galaxies shimmer across the invisible threads, you begin to sense a deeper pulse behind it all. Perhaps you think these patterns are not just shapes, but records imprints of the universe remembering itself. Each filament a story, each cluster a thought. The cosmic web might not merely exist, it might be thinking. The idea drifts softly through you, neither fact nor fantasy, but a wonder worth holding. You do not need certainty. You only need the quiet amazement of knowing that structure itself, connection itself, can arise from the void. You begin this journey in darkness, not the kind that frightens or hides, but a vast, tranquil darkness, the kind that hums softly at the edge of time. Everywhere around you, light flickers faintly, traveling from ancient stars, carrying stories older than worlds. You float there, quiet, and listen to light. It whispers in wavelengths, some long and stretched, like sighs from the farthest galaxies, others short and sharp, like glimmers from newborn stars. And though you cannot see dark energy itself, you start to realize that light, fragile, weightless, eternal, reveals where darkness moves. To see the unseen, you must follow what bends around it. Astronomers do this too. They watch light curve where it shouldn't, like a river bending around invisible rocks. Those invisible rocks are gravity, the pull of unseen mass, of galaxies and clusters so dense that light itself bows before them. This gentle curving is called gravitational lensing, nature's own telescope. Through these warped paths, scientists glimpse the shape of the invisible web. The structured dark energy stretches apart. You drift closer to one of these cosmic lenses. A distant galaxy gleams behind it, its image twisted into rings of light. It's like looking into a shimmering mirror that has been softly melted by gravity's hand. And as you gaze through this distortion, you feel the tension, the quiet tug-of-war between gravity's gathering pull and dark energy's steady expansion. Light carries a memory of that struggle, written in every ripple and curve. Now, you drift towards something brighter, the sudden flare of a dying star, a supernova. When these stellar giants collapse and explode, they shine with such intensity that they can be seen across billions of light years. But not all supernovae are alike. One type, known as type Ia, burns with consistent brightness, a cosmic candle that astronomers use to measure distance. By comparing how bright it appears to how bright it should be, scientists can tell how far away it lies. In the late 1990s, these very candles revealed something astonishing. The universe wasn't just expanding, it was accelerating. The galaxies were speeding away faster than gravity alone could explain. Something unseen, some invisible pressure, was pushing space apart. That something became known as dark energy. You imagine those astronomers staring at points of fading light through telescopes, not realizing they were about to rewrite the story of the cosmos. Each flicker of dying starlight became a clue. Each faint glow a measurement of how fast the universe was stretching. It's as if the stars themselves whispered a secret. There's more here than you can see. You close your eyes and feel the rhythm of it, the pulse of light traveling across time. A photon born in a supernova might journey for 10 billion years before meeting the glass of a telescope mirror or the soft lens of an observing eye. For all that time, it carries truth undisturbed, the expansion written in its redshift, the stretching of space etched in its wavelength. You sense the tenderness of that act, the universe telling its own story through the quiet persistence of light. Now the scene changes. You drift further back, deeper into the universe's memory, until you reach the faintest light of all, the cosmic microwave background. It fills every direction, a soft afterglow from the birth of time itself. At first, it looks uniform like mist, but when scientists map it in detail, they find tiny ripples, temperature differences no greater than a few millionths of a degree. Those ripples are the fingerprints of the infant universe, showing where matter first began to clump and where the seeds of galaxies were sown. Dark energy did not exist then as it does now. It was quiet, waiting. The universe was still ruled by gravity's hand. But as billions of years passed, expansion gained strength. The light from that ancient age stretched thinner, dimmer, colder. Yet it still carries the shape of what once was. Even now, that microwave glow hums softly between galaxies, a map of where everything began. You breathe slowly, feeling your chest rise and fall, your own rhythm echoing the cosmic one. In every inhalation, space expands. In every exhalation, it contracts. You and the cosmos share a pattern, light revealing, darkness shaping, energy stretching. Science, you realize, is not just about numbers or measurements. It is a way of listening to the silence between those lights. And when scientists map dark energy, they are not chasing shadows. They are learning to hear the quiet music between galaxies, to see how light bends, fades, and stretches in the presence of something that cannot be seen. Every telescope, every satellite, becomes an ear pressed gently against the chest of the universe. What they hear is not chaos, but rhythm, the steady breath of expansion, ongoing, unstoppable, serene. You drift once more among the galaxies. Their light surrounds you, older than memory, softer than thought. Each beam that touches you carries the faintest echo of the universe's hidden energy. And though you still cannot see it, you begin to feel the pattern. The way light traces the bones of the cosmos, sketching an invisible structure across unimaginable distances. You float there, weightless, understanding that light is both messenger and mapmaker. As you watch another supernova bloom in the distance, a final breath turned into brightness, you realize something profound. Every end becomes illumination. Every dying star contributes to the map of what remains unseen. Even darkness, you understand now, is not absence. It is a canvas upon which the universe draws its grand design. And as the starlight fades, you sense a new question rising. If light can reveal what we cannot see, then what might matter itself conceal beneath its familiar glow? You drift toward that thought, softly, letting it carry you into the next mystery, toward the hidden shapes of matter that weave the rest of the cosmic web. You begin with a breath, a slow, gentle inhalation, the kind that fills you not just with air, but with a sense of beginnings. In your mind's eye, space folds inward, time rewinds, and the galaxies around you start to drift closer. Stars vanish one by one into the mist of their younger selves. The universe contracts softly until all you can see is light, a brightness so intense it hums. And then silence. You arrive at the earliest moment, where everything that would ever exist is compressed into something smaller than a grain of sand. Not a thing in space, but space itself waiting to unfold. Here, density is infinite, temperature beyond measure, and yet you feel an odd serenity. There is no edge, no center, only potential. This is not an explosion in the ordinary sense. There is no shattering, no sound, no outward blast into emptiness. There is only expansion, smooth, everywhere at once. Every point of space stretches away from every other, like dots on an inflating balloon. You realize that the universe doesn't expand into anything. Space itself is what grows. You're not watching a fireball in the void. You're inside the unfolding fabric of existence. Time begins to tick. In the first instant, the Planck time, less than a trillionth of a second, the laws of physics, as you know them, flicker into being. Gravity, that subtle sculptor of motion, separates from the chaos. Then comes the strong force, the weak force, and electromagnetism, the four invisible weavers of reality. Their balance sets the stage for everything that will ever form. Stars, planets, you. You feel the expansion accelerate, a phase scientists call cosmic inflation. In an instant, the universe grows from smaller than a proton to larger than galaxies. The motion is so vast, so fast, it defies imagination. And yet it feels peaceful, like the slow, effortless blooming of a flower viewed in infinite time. Tiny ripples of energy stretch into great waves, seeding the patterns that will one day become clusters of galaxies. What looks random now will soon become structure. You float through this infant cosmos, a sea of glowing plasma. Particles of light and matter mingling, colliding, dancing. Hydrogen forms first, then helium, simple elements born from a furnace of creation. The universe glows with a soft, warm radiance. Not yet starlight, but the background glow of birth. This is the light that will one day become the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the beginning, still whispering across the night sky. You drift, watching the light cool. As the universe expands, its heat spreads thinner, its brightness dims. A few 100,000 years pass, and for the first time, atoms hold together. Electrons caught by protons, matter finding its form. The light that filled everything is freed, traveling unhindered through growing space. That light is still traveling, even now. When scientists map it, they see not chaos but a pattern, a record of the universe's first breath, frozen in radiation. You imagine that breath. The universe inhales and exhales through time, expanding in rhythm with its own creation. And you realize expansion never truly stopped. The galaxies are still drifting apart, carried on the same invisible tide that began then. You're still within that first breath, still being carried outward by it. Even the distance between the atoms in your body quietly swells, though the forces within you hold them close. You look around, and it feels as if you are standing in the memory of movement. The universe is not static. It is always becoming. When astronomers measure the light from distant galaxies, they see its wavelength stretched, turned red by expansion. This redshift is the cosmic signature of motion itself. The farther a galaxy, the faster it recedes, not because it travels through space, but because space itself stretches between you. It's a strange thought that the emptiness grows, carrying everything within it further apart. But it's not loneliness you feel, it's grace. Every galaxy is part of the same unfolding, every cluster a petal in a cosmic bloom. The expansion is not destruction but creation, the making of room for everything that will ever be. Billions of years pass as you drift. Gravity begins to gather matter into knots and filaments, weaving the cosmic web you have already seen. In that web, galaxies spark to life, igniting stars, forming planets, and scattering heavy elements into space. The building blocks of everything, of oceans, of breath, of thought, are born from the slow, expanding rhythm. You are the echo of that motion, the living memory of the great expansion. And yet, even as the universe creates, it also thins. Distances widen. Galaxies once close enough to see each other's light will, one day, fade beyond reach. Dark energy, the invisible pressure you've begun to understand, now takes the lead. It accelerates the expansion, turning it from a gentle drift into a quiet rush. The future will be colder, dimmer, quieter, but not empty of meaning. Because every moment of expansion is a record of change, a reflection of motion turned to memory. You pause and listen. There is no sound, and yet you can almost hear it, the low hum of space itself stretching. It's the same rhythm that beats in your pulse, the same wave that moves your breath. Creation, it seems, never ended. It continues through you, through everything. The expansion is not just a story of the universe. It's a story of patience, of beginnings that never stop beginning, of time unfolding in slow, endless generosity. You are part of that generosity. Every atom in you born from stars that once rode the expanding tide of space. The light you see in the sky is ancient, but it still travels, still reaches. So, do you? You open your hand and imagine space swelling between your fingers. You feel how everything moves apart, and yet, in that motion, everything is still connected. The same forces that push galaxies away also allow stars to live and die, planets to form, and life to dream. Without expansion, there would be no space for change, no time for memory, no breath between stars. And so you drift, watching galaxies recede like lanterns in a darkening sea. Each one glows with a story of its own creation, its own expansion, its own fading light. You sense the elegance of it all, that the same universe that stretches endlessly outward also folds gently inward, into you. You are both observer and participant, a ripple in the grand unfolding. And as you float there, surrounded by the faint hum of growing space, a quiet question forms. If the universe keeps expanding, then where in all this motion does the balance lie between creation and stillness? You let the question drift ahead of you, like a star seen through fog, a guide toward the next mystery waiting to unfold. You begin with a breath, a slow, gentle inhalation, the kind that fills you not just with air, but with a sense of beginnings. In your mind's eye, space folds inward, time rewinds, and the galaxies around you start to drift closer. Stars vanish one by one into the mist of their younger selves. The universe contracts softly until all you can see is light, a brightness so intense it hums, and then silence. You arrive at the earliest moment, where everything that would ever exist is compressed into something smaller than a grain of sand. Not a thing in space, but space itself waiting to unfold. Here, density is infinite, temperature beyond measure, and yet you feel an odd serenity. There is no edge, no center, only potential. This is not an explosion in the ordinary sense. There is no shattering, no sound, no outward blast into emptiness. There is only expansion, smooth, everywhere at once. Every point of space stretches away from every other, like dots on an inflating balloon. You realize that the universe doesn't expand into anything. Space itself is what grows. You're not watching a fireball in a void. You're inside the unfolding fabric of existence. Time begins to tick. In the first instant, the Planck time, less than a trillionth of a second, the laws of physics, as you know them, flicker into being. Gravity, that subtle sculptor of motion, separates from the chaos. Then comes the strong force, the weak force, and electromagnetism, the four invisible weavers of reality. Their balance sets the stage for everything that will ever form. Stars, planets, you. You feel the expansion accelerate, a phase scientists call cosmic inflation. In an instant, the universe grows from smaller than a proton to larger than galaxies. The motion is so vast, so fast, it defies imagination. And yet it feels peaceful, like the slow, effortless blooming of a flower viewed in infinite time. Tiny ripples of energy stretch into great waves, seeding the patterns that will one day become clusters of galaxies. What looks random now will soon become structure. You float through this infant cosmos, a sea of glowing plasma, particles of light and matter mingling, colliding, dancing. Hydrogen forms first, then helium, simple elements born from a furnace of creation. The universe glows with a soft, warm radiance. Not yet starlight, but the background glow of birth. This is the light that will one day become the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the beginning, still whispering across the night sky. You drift, watching the light cool. As the universe expands, its heat spreads thinner, its brightness dims. A few 100,000 years pass, and for the first time, atoms hold together. Electrons caught by protons, matter finding its form. The light that filled everything is freed, traveling unhindered through growing space. That light is still traveling, even now. When scientists map it, they see not chaos but a pattern, a record of the universe's first breath, frozen in radiation. You imagine that breath. The universe inhales and exhales through time, expanding in rhythm with its own creation. And you realize expansion never truly stopped. The galaxies are still drifting apart, carried on the same invisible tide that began then. You're still within that first breath, still being carried outward by it. Even the distance between the atoms in your body quietly swells, though the forces within you hold them close. You look around, and it feels as if you are standing in the memory of movement. The universe is not static. It is always becoming. When astronomers measure the light from distant galaxies, they see its wavelength stretched, turned red by expansion. This redshift is the cosmic signature of motion itself. The farther a galaxy, the faster it recedes, not because it travels through space, but because space itself stretches between you. It's a strange thought that the emptiness grows, carrying everything within it further apart. But it's not loneliness you feel, it's grace. Every galaxy is part of the same unfolding, every cluster a petal in a cosmic bloom. The expansion is not destruction but creation, the making of room for everything that will ever be. Billions of years pass as you drift. Gravity begins to gather matter into knots and filaments, weaving the cosmic web you have already seen. In that web, galaxies spark to life, igniting stars, forming planets, and scattering heavy elements into space. The building blocks of everything, of oceans, of breath, of thought, are born from the slow, expanding rhythm. You are the echo of that motion, the living memory of the great expansion. And yet, even as the universe creates, it also thins. Distances widen. Galaxies once close enough to see each other's light will, one day, fade beyond reach. Dark energy, the invisible pressure you've begun to understand, now takes the lead. It accelerates the expansion, turning it from a gentle drift into a quiet rush. The future will be colder, dimmer, quieter, but not empty of meaning. Because every moment of expansion is a record of change, a reflection of motion turned to memory. You pause and listen. There is no sound, and yet you can almost hear it, the low hum of space itself stretching. It's the same rhythm that beats in your pulse, the same wave that moves your breath. Creation, it seems, never ended. It continues through you, through everything. The expansion is not just a story of the universe. It's a story of patience, of beginnings that never stop beginning, of time unfolding in slow, endless generosity. You are part of that generosity. Every atom in you born from stars that once rode the expanding tide of space. The light you see in the sky is ancient, but it still travels, still reaches. So, do you? You open your hand and imagine space swelling between your fingers. You feel how everything moves apart, and yet, in that motion, everything is still connected. The same forces that push galaxies away also allow stars to live and die, planets to form, and life to dream. Without expansion, there would be no space for change, no time for memory, no breath between stars. And so you drift, watching galaxies recede like lanterns in a darkening sea. Each one glows with the story of its own creation, its own expansion, its own fading light. You sense the elegance of it all, that the same universe that stretches endlessly outward also folds gently inward, into you. You are both observer and participant, a ripple in the grand unfolding. And as you float there, surrounded by the faint hum of growing space, a quiet question forms. If the universe keeps expanding, then where in all this motion does the balance lie between creation and stillness? You let the question drift ahead of you, like a star seen through fog, a guide toward the next mystery waiting to unfold. You float in a calm, endless expanse, a sea without shore. The galaxies around you shimmer faintly, islands of light suspended in infinite night. And yet, something feels incomplete. You sense that there is more here than your eyes can grasp, an invisible structure holding the universe together. The light is only the decoration. The real architecture is hidden in silence. You close your eyes and listen. There, in the quiet, you begin to feel it, the tension between two unseen forces. One draws everything inward, like gravity's deep breath. The other pushes outward, like an exhale that never ends. Dark matter and dark energy, opposites in purpose, yet partners in creation. You imagine them as two hands shaping the same clay. Dark matter molds, gathers, gives form. Dark energy stretches, smooths, and opens space. Together, they weave the grand pattern, galaxies, clusters, and cosmic voids arranged like beads on invisible strings. You can't see their touch, but you can see the beauty left behind. Scientists first noticed this hidden presence not through what it showed, but through what it did. When they measured how galaxies spin, the outer stars moved too fast, far faster than visible matter could account for. Something unseen must have been adding gravity, keeping galaxies from flying apart. That something became known as dark matter. Not dark because it is shadow, but because it neither emits nor absorbs light. It is invisible, yet its gravity sculpts the shape of everything you see. You drift toward a galaxy, a glowing spiral, arms sweeping out like the slow dance of light. Around it lies a vast, unseen halo, a cocoon of dark matter that outweighs all the visible stars. It holds the galaxy gently, as if cradling a fragile flame in a cupped hand. Without this invisible mass, the galaxy's rotation would tear it apart. You realize then that dark matter is not absence. It is the quiet scaffolding of creation. And then you feel the other hand, the one that releases. Dark energy. Where dark matter gathers, dark energy spreads. It does not bind but loosens, driving galaxies apart, accelerating the cosmic expansion you felt in the last chapter. It is a strange kind of force, not a pull, but a push, not a presence you can touch, but a pressure that fills all space. You imagine it like the air between leaves on a tree, gently lifting each one away from the others. It is everywhere, equally, silently doing its work. You can't feel it directly, but it surrounds you, a soft, invisible wind stretching the fabric of the cosmos. If dark matter is the skeleton of the universe, dark energy is its breath. And between the two, balance emerges, one shaping, one expanding, one holding, one letting go. You drift deeper into the cosmic web, where galaxies cluster at the intersections of invisible threads. The web is not made of light, but of influence, the pull of dark matter guiding galaxies into filaments that stretch for hundreds of millions of light years. The spaces between them, vast and empty, are where dark energy dominates, pushing, widening, creating room for everything to move. This is the architecture of existence. Tension and release, creation and expansion, stillness and motion intertwined. You begin to see how everything in the cosmos depends on what cannot be seen. The stars, the planets, even the atoms that make up your body, all dance to the rhythm set by these silent forces. You exist because of the balance between them. Too much dark energy, and galaxies would never have formed. Too little, and the universe would have collapsed back into itself. You are the child of that equilibrium, a brief note in the harmony of forces. Astronomers estimate that dark energy makes up about 70% of the universe, and dark matter about 25%. Everything visible, the stars, the galaxies, the light itself, accounts for less than 5%. You let that thought settle over you like soft rain. Almost everything that exists is unseen, and yet without it, nothing visible can endure. You think of your own life, the spaces between your thoughts, the silences between your breaths. Perhaps you wonder, the universe teaches the same lesson through its structure, that what cannot be seen often carries what matters most. The unseen holds the seen. The silence sustains the luminous. You drift beside a cluster of galaxies, great islands of light drawn together by invisible filaments of dark matter. They swirl slowly, bound by gravity's unseen grip. Each one contains billions of stars, and yet all of them together are only small knots in a web that spans the cosmos. From far enough away, the web resembles neurons in a brain, glowing nodes connected by invisible lines. It feels almost alive. You sense that the universe, in its vastness, is not empty but conscious in its own quiet way. You try to picture dark matter itself, not as shadow or mist, but as a quiet hum, a density of presence beyond perception. Some theories say it could be made of undiscovered particles, weakly interacting, slipping through everything without collision. Others imagine entire families of invisible matter, mirroring our own, a hidden twin to the luminous world. You realize how humble our sight truly is, how much lies just beyond its reach. And dark energy, even more mysterious. Some say it could be a property of space itself, a vacuum energy woven into the fabric of existence. Others think it might change over time, slowly altering the fate of the cosmos. Whatever it is, it acts without noise, without form, without trace, yet its touch shapes eternity. It is both absence and presence, emptiness and creation. You breathe, and for a moment, you feel those forces within yourself. Your body, held together by gravity and matter, expands in contract with breath, a small echo of cosmic balance. You are, in a way, a reflection of that dance. Structure and openness, stillness and motion. The same physics that governs galaxies also governs you. You float there, letting this realization sink in. The universe is not built by chaos, but by quiet intention, by unseen architects whose work can only be read through light and motion. Their designs are delicate, yet their influence eternal. They do not shout. They whisper in the movements of galaxies, in the pull of stars, in the rhythm of your own heartbeat. And as you drift weightless, surrounded by the silent web of all things, a soft question forms in your mind. If dark matter holds and dark energy releases, then what thread connects them? What hidden balance keeps the universe in motion, yet never lets it fall apart? You let the question linger, floating beside you like a faint pulse of starlight, a promise that the next mystery is already beginning to unfold. You begin with a breath, a slow, gentle inhalation, the kind that fills you not just with air, but with a sense of beginnings. In your mind's eye, space folds inward, time rewinds, and the galaxies around you start to drift closer. Stars vanish one by one into the mist of their younger selves. The universe contracts softly until all you can see is light, a brightness so intense it hums. And then silence. You arrive at the earliest moment, where everything that would ever exist is compressed into something smaller than a grain of sand. Not a thing in space, but space itself waiting to unfold. Here, density is infinite, temperature beyond measure, and yet you feel an odd serenity. There is no edge, no center, only potential. This is not an explosion in the ordinary sense. There is no shattering, no sound, no outward blast into emptiness. There is only expansion, smooth, everywhere at once. Every point of space stretches away from every other, like dots on an inflating balloon. You realize that the universe doesn't expand into anything. Space itself is what grows. You're not watching a fireball in a void. You're inside the unfolding fabric of existence. Time begins to tick. In the first instant, the Planck time, less than a trillionth of a second, the laws of physics, as you know them, flicker into being. Gravity, that subtle sculptor of motion, separates from the chaos. Then comes the strong force, the weak force, and electromagnetism, the four invisible weavers of reality. Their balance sets the stage for everything that will ever form. Stars, planets, you. You feel the expansion accelerate, a phase scientists call cosmic inflation. In an instant, the universe grows from smaller than a proton to larger than galaxies. The motion is so vast, so fast, it defies imagination. And yet it feels peaceful, like the slow, effortless blooming of a flower viewed in infinite time. Tiny ripples of energy stretch into great waves, seeding the patterns that will one day become clusters of galaxies. What looks random now will soon become structure. You float through this infant cosmos, a sea of glowing plasma, particles of light and matter mingling, colliding, dancing. Hydrogen forms first, then helium, simple elements born from a furnace of creation. The universe glows with a soft, warm radiance. Not yet starlight, but the background glow of birth. This is the light that will one day become the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the beginning, still whispering across the night sky. You drift, watching the light cool. As the universe expands, its heat spreads thinner, its brightness dims. A few 100,000 years pass, and for the first time, atoms hold together, Electrons caught by protons, matter finding its form. The light that filled everything is freed, traveling unhindered through growing space. That light is still traveling, even now. When scientists map it, they see not chaos but a pattern, a record of the universe's first breath, frozen in radiation. You imagine that breath. The universe inhales and exhales through time, expanding in rhythm with its own creation. And you realize expansion never truly stopped. The galaxies are still drifting apart, carried on the same invisible tide that began then. You're still within that first breath, still being carried outward by it. Even the distance between the atoms in your body quietly swells, though the forces within you hold them close. You look around, and it feels as if you're standing in the memory of movement. The universe is not static. It is always becoming. When astronomers measure the light from distant galaxies, they see its wavelength stretched, turned red by expansion. This redshift is the cosmic signature of motion itself. The farther a galaxy, the faster it recedes, not because it travels through space, but because space itself stretches between you. It's a strange thought that the emptiness grows, carrying everything within it further apart. But it's not loneliness you feel, it's grace. Every galaxy is part of the same unfolding, every cluster a petal in a cosmic bloom. The expansion is not destruction but creation, the making of room for everything that will ever be. Billions of years pass as you drift. Gravity begins to gather matter into knots and filaments, weaving the cosmic web you have already seen. In that web, galaxies spark to life, igniting stars, forming planets, and scattering heavy elements into space. The building blocks of everything, of oceans, of breath, of thought, are born from the slow, expanding rhythm. You are the echo of that motion, the living memory of the great expansion. And yet, even as the universe creates, it also thins. Distances widen. Galaxies once close enough to see each other's light will, one day, fade beyond reach. Dark energy, the invisible pressure you've begun to understand, now takes the lead. It accelerates the expansion, turning it from a gentle drift into a quiet rush. The future will be colder, dimmer, quieter, but not empty of meaning. Because every moment of expansion is a record of change, a reflection of motion turned to memory. You pause and listen. There is no sound, and yet you can almost hear it, the low hum of space itself stretching. It's the same rhythm that beats in your pulse, the same wave that moves your breath. Creation, it seems, never ended. It continues through you, through everything. The expansion is not just a story of the universe. It's a story of patience, of beginnings that never stop beginning, of time unfolding in slow, endless generosity. You are part of that generosity. Every atom in you born from stars that once rode the expanding tide of space. The light you see in the sky is ancient, but it still travels, still reaches. So, do you? You open your hand and imagine space swelling between your fingers. You feel how everything moves apart, and yet, in that motion, everything is still connected. The same forces that push galaxies away also allow stars to live and die, planets to form, and life to dream. Without expansion, there would be no space for change, no time for memory, no breath between stars. And so you drift, watching galaxies recede like lanterns in a darkening sea. Each one glows with the story of its own creation, its own expansion, its own fading light. You sense the elegance of it all, that the same universe that stretches endlessly outward also folds gently inward, into you. You are both observer and participant, a ripple in the grand unfolding. And as you float there, surrounded by the faint hum of growing space, a quiet question forms. If the universe keeps expanding, then where in all this motion does the balance lie between creation and stillness? You let the question drift ahead of you, like a star seen through fog, a guide toward the next mystery waiting to unfold. You close your eyes and listen, not to the sounds of earth, but to the faintest hum that fills all of space. It is everywhere, woven into the silence between galaxies, drifting softly through the night. This is a cosmic microwave background, the oldest light in existence. It hums at a frequency just above nothingness, stretched by time, softened by distance, yet still speaking. You hear it not with ears, but with thought, the quiet murmur of the universe remembering its beginning. Once, this light was not faint at all. Once, it was blinding. You drift backward through billions of years until the galaxies dissolve into mist, the mist collapses into fire, and the fire becomes everything. You arrive in a universe just born, small, glowing, full of sound. The temperature is so high that light and matter cannot part ways. Photons scatter wildly, trapped among particles like fireflies in a storm. You can feel the density of it, thick, glowing, alive. Every inch of space hums with energy. The light cannot escape. It ricochets between electrons, bouncing endlessly, waiting for calm. You're inside a cosmic womb, where light itself is not yet free to travel. And then, like a long-held breath finally released, the universe begins to cool. 380,000 years pass. Not long in cosmic time. The temperature falls just enough for protons and electrons to join hands, forming neutral hydrogen. The fog thins. The light at last can move. It spreads outward in every direction, filling the young cosmos like water pouring into a hollow shell. Those first photons are the same ones still drifting today, cooled and stretched by the expansion of everything. You are surrounded by them now. Their wavelengths soften to microwaves, their glow invisible but constant. You are hearing light that has traveled for almost 14 billion years. Every ripple, every tiny fluctuation in its smoothness carries a memory of structure. Where the light was slightly warmer, matter once gathered. Where it was cooler, space thinned out. Those faint patches, mere variations of a few millionths of a degree, became the seeds of galaxies, stars, and worlds. From those small imperfections came the grand design of everything that would follow. You picture it. A baby universe wrapped in its own afterglow. Astronomers, with their satellites and telescopes, have mapped this afterglow, transforming invisible whispers into a pattern of color, blue for slightly cooler, red for slightly warmer. The Planck satellite, orbiting high above Earth, once gathered these ancient signals, pixel by pixel, painting a portrait of the infant cosmos. When you look at that map, you're looking back to the very first moment light could move freely. It is the closest thing we have to a photograph of the beginning. You drift through that light. Each photon touches you gently, not in warmth but in meaning. They are ancient messengers, unaltered since they began their journey. Some were born where galaxies would someday bloom. Others where voids would widen. Their message is simple. We were there when the universe took its first breath. You imagine holding that light in your hands, a soft, endless fabric woven from time itself. You could trace the folds and ripples, feel where gravity began to tug slightly harder, where matter began to clump, where emptiness stretched its arms wider. You begin to see that this faint glow is not just relic radiation. It is the blueprint of everything that exists today. And in that realization, you feel the symmetry of it, how the faintest of sounds, the smallest of fluctuations, could lead to such vast and beautiful diversity. A billion galaxies, trillions of stars, endless possibility, born from the tiniest differences in a sea of light. The cosmic microwave background is often called the echo of creation, not a loud shout, but a whisper that never fades. It tells us that the universe was once uniform, yet imperfect enough to grow. It tells us that even in its first breath, there was a potential for beauty, complexity, and life. You can almost hear it, a low, constant tone, not unlike static on an old radio. In truth, a fraction of that static you might hear on a television set between channels is this very radiation reaching your ears across the ages. It hums through everything, through air, through stars, through the space between atoms. You realize that in some quiet way, it hums through you too, because you are made from the consequences of those ripples. Every atom in your body, every breath you take, every heartbeat, all of it traces back to the tiny fluctuations recorded in that ancient light. You are not just listening to the universe. You are hearing your own origin story told in a different tongue. Time moves softly as you float through that glow. You think of the countless instruments that have listened before you. The COBE satellite that first revealed the ripples, the WMAP that refined them, the Planck that painted them in exquisite detail. Each one peeling back the darkness to reveal that the early universe was not chaos, but pattern, a rhythm written in photons. And you wonder, if this is what the universe looked like when it first cooled, what did it feel like before that? What happened in the first moments, before light, before atoms, before form? You sense that beyond these echoes, beyond even the earliest photons, there was something deeper, a silence before sound, a void before vibration. The hum of the cosmic microwave background fades as you drift further inward toward that silence. You begin to feel what lies behind the echoes, not light, but the structure beneath it, the invisible scaffolding on which the visible universe was built. In that stillness, you sense the silent architects, the unseen forces that gave shape to light's first expansion. You feel gravity holding, dark matter anchoring, dark energy stretching. Their hands are unseen, but the design is everywhere. And you begin to realize the story of light was only the beginning. You drift into a region of deep time, where galaxies slide silently through the dark like lanterns on an invisible tide. Each one glows faintly, 1,000 billion suns bound together, moving as if carried on a current too vast to see. You watch them recede, slowly at first, then faster. The farther away they are, the quicker they seem to flee. It feels as though the universe itself is breathing, an endless exhale, carrying everything outward. This motion, you realize, was first noticed through a soft red tint in the light of galaxies. When Edwin Hubble looked through his telescope a century ago, he found that the light from faraway galaxies was stretched, its waves lengthened by motion. The redder the light, the faster the retreat. From this, he drew a breathtaking conclusion. The universe was not static. It was expanding. You close your eyes and imagine the fabric of space itself stretching, not as though galaxies are speeding through pre-existing emptiness, but as though space itself is unfolding, carrying them apart. Like dots on the surface of an inflating balloon. They are not moving through space. They are moving with it. The air around you feels alive with quiet growth. You sense the same expansion in every direction. No center, no edge, just motion. The universe is not flying outward from a single point in the void. Rather, everywhere is expanding from everywhere else. Each corner of the cosmos shares in this great unfolding, each region watching the others drift away. You picture galaxies as glowing boats adrift on an ever-widening sea. You stand on one, looking across the horizon, and see the others receding faster and faster. The farther they are, the greater the distance between you grows each second. The relationship is simple, yet profound. The Hubble constant, the number that defines how quickly the universe expands per unit of distance. But as you float among the stars, you sense a quiet tension hidden in the calm. Astronomers, for all their careful measuring, cannot agree on this one number. Every telescope, every method, whispers something slightly different. You drift between these whispers. One comes from nearby, from the light of Cepheid stars, those steady beacons that pulse like cosmic heartbeats. Astronomers use them to measure distance, counting their rhythm to tell how far their galaxies lie. From these nearby lights, they find one answer for universe's rate of expansion. Then you drift farther into the cold background glow of the early cosmos, the cosmic microwave background. From that ancient light, a different answer emerges. Two numbers, two truths, both precise, both impossible to reconcile. You float in the space between them, feeling the tension, not as conflict, but as wonder. Because perhaps the universe is whispering that there is something more subtle at play, something the equations have not yet learned to name. You picture the universe as a vast loom, its threads of time and space pulled by invisible hands. Dark energy tugs outward, dark matter anchors inward. Between them, galaxies move like beads sliding on elastic cords. The cords stretch, the beads drift apart, but not evenly. Perhaps the tension shifts from place to place, moment to moment. Perhaps the expansion is not as simple as a steady breath, but more like a rhythm, one that changes tempo with age. You think of the Hubble tension, that strange disagreement that persists even with the most refined instruments. Some scientists call it crisis, others an opportunity. You find comfort in it. The idea that even now, when humanity has mapped billions of galaxies and traced the faintest echoes of the Big Bang, there is still something essential we don't yet understand. You imagine space as a great sea whose tides are pulled by unseen moons. Maybe dark energy itself evolves, waxing and waning across eons. Maybe new physics waits, hidden in the drift of galaxies or the shimmer of background light. The thought fills you not with frustration, but with quiet awe. For what would knowledge be without mystery? The unknown is not an enemy here. It is the pulse that keeps curiosity alive. You drift past a cluster of galaxies, each one tumbling through space like a handful of glowing embers. Between them, great voids open, cosmic caverns where almost nothing exists. Yet even in those empty regions, expansion persists. Space stretches quietly, endlessly, indifferent to density. You can almost hear it, like a sigh beneath the silence, the slow widening of all things. The galaxies near you move away gently, the distant ones faster, and those unimaginably far, beyond what any telescope can yet see. They vanish beyond the cosmic horizon, retreating faster than light itself, not because they break its law, but because the very stage beneath them expands. You sense that beyond that horizon, the story continues, unobserved, unended. The light of these galaxies reddens as they go, stretched until it becomes invisible, transformed from visible color to infrared glow to faint microwave hum. It is as though the universe paints its memory into softer tones the farther back you look. The past becomes a melody you can no longer hear, but you feel it in your bones. You remember that every atom in your body was once part of that expansion. The same stretching that carries galaxies apart also carried hydrogen into stars, stars into supernovae, and supernovae into the elements that now form you. You are not outside the expansion. You are part of it, a small piece of the great unfolding, feeling itself unfold. You imagine Hubble himself gazing through his telescope, unaware that his discovery would one day reveal a universe accelerating, not slowing down. When the data first showed that distant supernovae were dimmer than expected, astronomers realized something extraordinary. The expansion wasn't just continuing, it was speeding up. Something unseen, something repulsive, was pushing galaxies apart faster and faster. That invisible force, dark energy, now drives the cosmos. You feel it, gentle, pervasive, everywhere. It's as though the universe wants to ensure that no galaxy, no cluster, no corner of existence can ever collapse back upon itself. It wants to keep moving, to keep creating distance. And yet, the mystery deepens. What is dark energy? A property of space itself? A field that changes with time? Or something even stranger? A hint that our understanding of gravity is incomplete? The questions drift around you like distant constellations, each one glowing faintly in the dark. You don't need answers now. It is enough to know that these mysteries exist, that there are still edges where light hasn't yet reached, still numbers that don't quite fit, still riddles that resist simplification. You breathe in, slowly. The thought that the universe could be both measurable and unknowable comforts you. It means that curiosity will never run out. It means that every generation of observers will look again, listen again, and find something new. The expansion continues, faster now. Galaxies slip beyond reach. The light grows fainter. And you realize this is not loss, but revelation. The universe is not hiding from you. It is simply moving forward, carrying its secrets deeper into the unfolding night. Even the silence between galaxies feels alive now, not empty, but full of waiting. The kind of silence that invites discovery. You close your eyes and feel the pull between the known and the unknown, between what science measures and what wonder feels. You drift in the dark, a quiet traveler between galaxies. The stars recede behind you like candle flames fading in fog. Out here, the silence feels alive, full, heavy, breathing softly. You sense that something unseen moves beneath it, not wind or dust, but a pressure, a presence, a rhythm in the fabric itself. This is where dark energy might be hiding, not in stars or gas, not in any place you can point to, but in the texture of the universe itself, the quiet tension woven into the weave of space and time. You imagine space-time as a vast ocean. Galaxies are ships upon its surface, riding waves too large to see, too slow to feel. But something deep beneath the hull, is pushing the water outward, making the currents drift apart. That invisible undertow, gentle yet relentless, is what astronomers call dark energy. You close your eyes and listen. If you could translate the expansion into sound, it would be a hum, low, constant, patient. Not a roar of explosion, but a long exhale, stretching across billions of years. Some say dark energy is the echo of the Big Bang's breath, a residue of creation itself, still pushing outward from that first unfathomable fire. Others think it's built into space-time, that the fabric of reality simply wants to stretch, as if its natural state is expansion, not stillness. You picture an old balloon in a cold room. Even when left alone, the air inside slowly expands, pressing ever so slightly against its skin. Maybe the universe behaves like that balloon, not because of anything inside it, but because space itself is alive with potential, a field humming quietly with energy even when it seems empty. Physicists have a name for that: vacuum energy. It sounds like nothing, but it may be everything. You imagine standing in a perfectly dark void, a place stripped of all matter, all light, all warmth. Even there, the vacuum hums faintly, a background buzz of quantum fields never quite at rest. Tiny fluctuations rise and fall like microscopic tides. Particles appear and vanish in pairs, ghosts borrowing energy from a void, only to repay it an instant later. If you could zoom in enough, you'd see this dance everywhere. In every cubic centimeter of nothing, a storm of existence flickering and fading. That storm could be what drives the universe apart. But the numbers don't fit. When scientists calculate how much vacuum energy should exist according to quantum theory, the answer overshoots reality by a number so large it defies comprehension. A trillion, 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 trillion times too much. The difference is not a crack in math. It's a canyon. And in that canyon, the mystery hides. So perhaps dark energy isn't vacuum energy. Perhaps it's something else entirely. Something we don't yet have words for. You float through a mental landscape of theories. Each one rises like a mountain in the distance, shimmering, beautiful, uncertain. One mountain is quintessence, a field that fills all of space, shifting and evolving like wind across a plain. Unlike vacuum energy, it can change with time, growing weaker or stronger as the universe matures. If true, it would mean dark energy is not static at all, but a living, changing presence, the cosmos itself learning how to breathe. Another mountain glows with the idea of modified gravity. Maybe dark energy isn't a new ingredient at all. Maybe it's a misunderstanding of how gravity behaves. When stretched across billions of light years, Einstein's equations were written for stars, for planets, for the geometry near suns. But the universe is much larger than Einstein ever dreamed. Perhaps gravity itself behaves differently in that vastness, pushing instead of pulling. You picture space-time as a great fabric again. But now, instead of expanding because of a hidden pressure, perhaps the fabric curves in unexpected ways. Perhaps what looks like acceleration is really geometry whispering a trick of perspective. The theories swirl together like cosmic mist. Each one feels true for a moment, and then the mist shifts, and another takes its place. You breathe deeply, feeling no urgency to choose. Science, after all, isn't about certainty. It's about wonder. It's the art of asking questions so beautiful that they illuminate the darkness. Even if they never find an end, your mind drifts toward the cosmic web, that vast skeleton of galaxies you saw in the last chapter. Could dark energy be flowing through those filaments, like sap through branches of a universal tree? Or is it outside them, pressing against the web's edges, stretching the threads from afar? The galaxies, after all, are not being torn apart. Dark energy doesn't act locally. It doesn't pull at stars or moons or you. Its touch is only felt between clusters, in the spaces so vast that even light takes billions of years to cross them. That's the strange grace of it. It's everywhere, yet nowhere near you. You wonder what that says about the nature of emptiness. We often think of nothing as absence, as void, as lack. But maybe emptiness is the most active thing of all, a field of quiet potential. from which everything springs and into which everything falls. You think of a calm lake at dawn. Its surface looks still, but beneath it, currents swirl, molecules collide, reflections shift with every ripple of air. Dark energy could be the same, the stillness of space concealing motion too vast to feel. Astronomers continue to measure, to model, to search. They look at distant supernovae, like candles on the far side of the ocean. By timing their flickers, they map the pace of expansion, trying to sense whether the push of dark energy is constant or growing stronger. So far, it seems steady, but the data, like the stars, whisper more than they declare. You drift with them in thought, sharing their quiet awe. You picture one astronomer in a mountain observatory, sitting before a screen lit with galaxies, each one a clue to the unseen. Outside, wind touches a telescope dome. Inside, the hum of data carries across the dark, the faint signature of the universe's pulse. And somewhere between that pulse and your own slow breathing, you feel a connection, as if the expansion of everything and the rise and fall of your chest are bound by the same rhythm. Perhaps that's what dark energy truly is. Not an external force, but the expression of an intrinsic desire for movement, for growth, for becoming. Maybe the universe expands for the same reason you dream, because existence itself is restless, always reaching toward what it does not yet understand. You let that thought rest in your mind like a warm stone. It feels both impossible and intimate. In this mystery, you sense something kind, something patient, a quiet persistence that defines the cosmos. The stars drift farther apart. The light between them grows thinner, colder, but in that growing distance, something else is born, room for new light, new questions, new wonder. You breathe once more and look into the endless dark, feeling not small but included, for in a universe that hides such beauty, in its silence, even ignorance feels sacred. And as you drift, a gentle curiosity stirs in you. If the universe hides such forces in its emptiness, what other secrets might be written in its future light? You drift forward through time, not years, not centuries, but epochs. The stars around you begin to thin. The light that once blazed across the cosmos softens, fading into the quiet blue of endless distance. You are moving into the far future, an era when the story of the universe slows its rhythm, stretching its final notes into a cosmic lullaby. The galaxies, once close companions in a crowded sky, now glide away from one another, drawn apart by dark energy's invisible hand. Their light redshifts stretched into longer, gentler waves, until it slips beyond the reach of any eye. Even light itself grows tired, its song sinking into silence. You watch as familiar constellations dissolve, their patterns no longer written in the heavens. The Big Dipper, Orion, Andromeda, they all drift beyond recognition. Their stars carried away by the great expansion. It is not destruction you see, but dispersal, like dandelion seeds caught on eternal wind. The universe does not end with a crash. It fades like a breath released slowly into night. You float between galaxies, feeling the space between them widen like the pause between heartbeats. Dark energy continues its patient work, stretching every thread of the cosmic web. Once, gravity fought to hold things together, clusters, stars, planets, atoms. But gravity grows weary here, its grip loosened by the quiet persistence of expansion. In the near future, billions of years from now, the Milky Way will merge with Andromeda, their stars weaving together into one grand spiral of light. But even that colossal dance will soon be forgotten, lost in the darkness that follows. For beyond the borders of that merged galaxy, the rest of the universe will vanish from view, receding faster than light can chase. You imagine standing on a planet, then, in some distant future civilization. Its sky would be nearly empty. No galaxies, no clusters, only the stars of its own galaxy. And eventually, even those would fade. Future astronomers, if any exist, might believe they are alone in the cosmos, unable to see what once was. You smile softly at the thought that even isolation can be an illusion, that the truth of the universe once shimmered all around. Even if no one remains to remember, you move further still, past the age of stars. In this new era, the great furnaces of creation begin to go out one by one. The bright blue giants fade first, then the gentle yellow suns, and finally the dim red embers. Their fuel is finite, and the cosmos, though vast, is patient. Eventually, only the faint glow of white dwarfs remains, old stars cooling slowly, like coals in an infinite hearth. You hover near one of them. Its light is soft silver, casting no warmth, only memory. Around it drift planets long frozen, their oceans sealed beneath crystal ice. Here, time no longer feels like movement. It feels like stillness stretching outward. Millions of trillions of years pass. The white dwarfs cool into black dwarfs, their warmth finally gone. Black holes roam like shadows, swallowing what little remains. Occasionally, they whisper their last song, a faint radiation escaping their edges, slowly dissolving them back into the void. Even darkness, it seems, can fade. You listen as the universe exhales. It becomes quieter, emptier, gentler. The cosmic background light, that ancient whisper from the Big Bang, grows colder than any frost. Its wavelengths stretch beyond imagination. The invisible skeleton of galaxies and filaments remains, but without the stars to illuminate it. It exists only as potential, a ghost of structure beneath the calm. And yet, even in this vast emptiness, something persists. The geometry of what once was, the gentle memory of expansion, the unbroken rhythm of existence itself. You realize that the universe is not dying. It is transforming, just as a wave doesn't die when it meets the shore, but merges quietly with the sea. So too does the cosmos fold back into stillness. Perhaps this is not an end at all, but a pause, a silence between breaths. Some scientists imagine that dark energy will continue to accelerate, ripping apart galaxies, atoms, even space itself. The Big Rip. Others think the expansion may slow, that gravity might one day pull the cosmos back inward, into a great collapse, the Big Crunch. And still others whisper cycles, an eternal rhythm of birth, expansion, and rebirth. Each theory feels like a verse in a larger poem, one whose full stanza we can never read. You let them drift around you like snowflakes, cold, intricate, fleeting. You find comfort not in the answers, but in the elegance of the questions themselves. The universe has always been this way, curious, patient, and alive with mystery. Even in its quietest moments, it carries the echo of creation, a low hum that began when time began, and continues still. You think of the earliest light, the cosmic microwave background, that whisper from when the universe was young. Its faint glow still exists today, cooling, dimming, but never gone. It is the first lullaby the cosmos ever sang. And in the far future, its melody will stretch beyond hearing, but never beyond being. You begin to sense a strange symmetry. The beginning and the end are not opposites. They are reflections of the same stillness, two notes in the same eternal chord. When you look at the dark now, it no longer feels empty. It feels complete, as if every galaxy that ever shone still breathes quietly inside it, folded into the calm. Perhaps that is the true nature of dark energy, not a force to be solved, but a rhythm to be heard, a cosmic pulse that expands, then softens, and finally rests. You float there, surrounded by invisible motion, listening to the hush between the stars. There is beauty in the fading, grace in the letting go. The universe does not cling to its light. It releases it gently, trusting the darkness to hold it. You take a breath, slow and deep. For a moment, you feel the same rhythm within you, the expansion of lungs, the stillness between heartbeats. You realize you are part of this story, woven from the same quiet energy that carries galaxies apart. And as the last photons glide through infinite space, as every atom rests in the long silence that follows, you sense no tragedy here, only peace. For even in the quiet future of everything, existence continues to hum, not in light or heat, but in the deep knowing that it once was. Somewhere, the memory of creation remains. It lingers like warmth in cooled ashes, like the ghost of sunlight after dusk. And in that memory, there is eternity.